FFLs, JB and JC here. We're really happy you joined us for our June 23 Ask Us Any of the event for FFLs only. We've got a very long agenda, a lot of information packed in for the next 45 minutes, so stick with us. As you know, the best part of our event is the 45 minutes at the end where we answer all of your questions and make sure you get it right the first time when it comes to FFL compliance. Hey JC, can you run through our agenda and let our viewers know what we'll be talking about today?
Pipe. We're going to touch on arm braces and where you should be with those right now. And we know that there's been some recent rulings, and we want you to make sure you understand what those all mean. We've got a little bit of a review of a recent OIG report that came out in May. That's the Office of Inspector General. They did a review of the ATS practices with regard to inspections. So we're going to give you some insights on that. We're going to touch on ATF inspections and revocations, a couple of pieces of information about NFA and SOT, and then also an update on ATF Form 5320.23. As far as Compliance Corner is concerned, we're going to touch on a few things that we're seeing out there as far as 4473s and errors and things you need to know and questions we've been asked. Talk about out-of-state transfers. We're going to talk about private party transfers and military transfers. And then some questions came up about DLID expiration, so we'll touch on that. And then we're going to talk about before that closing conference, at the completion of your ATF compliance inspection, things you should be doing when you have an inspection going on. And things you can ask the ATF to do doesn't necessarily mean they have to do it, but some things you can do to improve the potential outcome of that inspection. And then lastly, we're going to do our atypical rapid fire Ask Us Anything. So we're going to want you to put those questions in the chat box if you haven't already submitted them to us. And so that way we can get to them and actually get some of your compliance questions answered here live.
All right. Hey, we're going to give you a lot of updates today. Again, time-sensitive information. But first, we want to go ahead and make sure you guys, first of all, received our new Restricted States guide. We sent it out with the invite to this webinar, and hopefully you have that. If not, make sure you go down to our website, fflconsultants.com, and you can always click on, there's a little extra bonus button right at the bottom of our homepage. And right there, you'll be taken to a folder with many, many resources and tools for you to use, including the new Restricted States guide. So if you didn't get it in your email or don't know how to download it there, just go ahead and visit us on our homepage. The Restricted States guide is updated as of June, and here's the highlights of the states that you need to be concerned with for whenever you are transferring to another state or to out-of-state residents, maybe somebody buying on GunBroker or maybe somebody walking into your store. So Colorado's got a 3-day waiting period coming, as well as age restrictions, 21s and over for all firearm purchases. That's down the road, not happening in the next 30 days. And our goal is to push out information to you. That is time sensitive. You'll get emails from us stating new laws that are going into effect in the next 30 days when they occur. Illinois obviously still has their bans in place. We're still waiting on some court rulings on those issues. Washington State, and actually our Oregon is almost there. Oregon should be, it's not on the list here, but it should be culminating this month with some hearings I know are coming in the next couple of weeks to understand if Oregon is going to be added to the list and if they can fight their restrictions that are unfairly being put into place. But Washington's under the gun. Their ban was not repealed last week, although many courts have looked at it, and many folks have basically sued the state for what they're doing. And again, that's still in the courts, and we still hopefully down the road will get some type of reversal on that. Maryland has a long gun ban. It's kind of weird, assault long gun ban, not an assault weapon ban. Rhode Island has some restrictions. Vermont and Michigan and Delaware all recently put bans into effect for some states, whether it be assault bans, age bans, magazine bans, etc. So please refer to the Restricted States guide whenever you're dealing with anybody from out of state, or if you're not familiar with the rules. And if you got any of those crazy residents from those crazy states, as we call them, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, now Virginia, Minnesota is on the list. Florida's got some restrictions. Be sure to call us. Don't make a mistake. Don't call us after the transfer. That's where things go bad. Call us before you complete that transfer. So again, get the guide, make sure you're downloading it, and make sure you're sharing it with your team.
All right, arm braces, everybody knows what they were supposed to do. Don't be shipping the firearm with an arm brace. Please stop doing that if you're doing it. We've had a lot of situations where an arm brace is shipped, whether detached or not, with an AR pistol. Do not do that. That is considered contraband. It has to be turned over to the ATF. We've received a lot of questions on buffer tubes and whether it's a pistol buffer tube. What we're finding out is notches or no notches. That's the question. And here's the bottom line. If it has notches on it, you're fine. If you have a concern with it or an IOI is pushing you, ask for their direction in writing. But here's the bottom line. If you're concerned about the notches, go ahead and do a real quick, easy Google search. You can find a few individuals out there that are manufacturing a device that actually fits right into the notches to render them inoperable. All right. Next piece, case updates, Firearm Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, Second Amendment Foundation. Yes, there have been injunctions, and the parties enjoined in these specific cases are members or those individuals that were members prior to the injunction. But the bottom line here is still, it ain't over. It ain't over until it's over. A lot remains to be seen with this. Eventually, it's going to have to get to the Supreme Court for a final decision. Speculation with a lot of parties is that eventually all this is going to get overturned and it's all going to be for naught. But until it gets there, we're still in a wait and see pattern. You certainly are willing and able and feel comfortable to go ahead, and if you're one of those parties enjoined, to take full advantage of that, I would recommend you talk to counsel before you move forward with anything. But bottom line is we're seeing the same thing over and over again with these cases where the ATF is being challenged on their arm brace policy, and we're continuing to see these injunctions. JB, I think there's 6, maybe 8 more cases out there that are outstanding. So we'll see what happens with these.
Yeah, the Supreme Court is looking at this globally as well, but I think they're going to let all the state trials and hearings complete or get started actually anyway. They're not going to be the first ones to jump in on this, right? That's right.
Okay, talked about this May 2023 Office Inspector General Report with regard to the ATF. This is the Office's Inspector General did an assessment of the ATF and their compliance inspection activities and its oversight of FFLs. It was not pretty. I'll tell you that much. I'm not going to go into all of the details. It's quite a lengthy report, but the bottom line is this. The OIG called out ATF on a number of different things, very specific to firearms compliance inspections. Their recall inspection activity was one item they touched on. What's a recall inspection? Recall inspection is when you've had administrative action against your license, a warning letter or a warning conference, and that recall inspection is supposed to occur after 12 months. So you have your warning conference 12 months later, they're supposed to come in, see if you've done everything that you were supposed to do as far as your compliance action plan. So they called them out and said, hey, look, you're not really doing a good job on executing recall inspections. So for those of you that have had administrative action, maybe haven't seen that recall inspection, I would fully anticipate them putting some heat on getting out to those. For those of you who may have gone through a revocation hearing, again, you are susceptible to a recall inspection as well. And that will happen, 12-month mark from the point of your last inspection, not necessarily from the date of your decision on whether or not you were revoked or whatever the case may be, but from the last inspection. So keep that in mind. They called out risk indicators that contributed to the selection of FFLs for inspection. So those risk indicators are not public information. Speculation is this: high number of traces, high number of denieds, high risk crime area, things like that. Those are risk indicators that are supposed to be used to make a determination on what FFLs should be targeted for inspection. All right. So if you're that FFL that gets a high number of denies, high number of overall trace requests, especially if that time to crime, the time between that firearm leaving your store, being transferred, and you getting a trace request, you can consider yourself potentially a target for a potential inspection down the road. Information gaps where changes to the eligibility of FFL responsible persons is concerned. So here's the key with this. Number one, the ATF has come down and said, anybody that's in management control, anybody that's an officer of the company, whether they participate in the company or not, they want those people to be responsible persons. And you need to ensure that anybody involved in your business that's a responsible person or that even just works there, that they are not prohibited in any way. So create that duty to report policy internally that says, hey, listen, if you become prohibited from being able to possess or control a firearm, you need to make sure you let us know so we can make a determination what the next steps are. Okay. Next, robust evaluation of the resolution of individual inspection outcomes. They're going to be looking at inspection outcomes to determine whether or not there are revocable repeat violations. You know, initially there were those 5 deadly sins. Then we said, you know what? It really looks like more like 7 deadly sins. Well, based on some information that's been updated on the ATF website and come out in some of these communications, there's really 9 deadly sins, which we'll go over in a second. They want to track settlement agreements. So that means if you've received a notice of revocation and you did not get revoked, you went through a warning conference, any of those where you've presented a settlement agreement to keep your license, they're going to not only track those, they want ATF to do a better job of that, but they also want to make sure there's follow-up. So bottom line here is this was not a good report for the ATF. The OIG said they need to do a better job. And guess what? They're going to be held to account. So you need to be prepared for that. So if there's any situation where you've recently had an inspection, you got a warning letter, you got a warning conference, you were able to win a revocation, get a hold of us so we can assess the situation and make a determination of what, risks are for you to be reinspected or whether or not you're going to be a target. All right. All right, JB, next slide.
All right, guys, a little inspection update. We haven't had the numbers available for the last couple of sessions. So here we go. In May, we had almost 790. We had 798 inspections, almost 800 reported by the IOIs out there. That brings us up to about 5,300. We will definitely be approaching that 8,000 or 9,000 by the time year is out. It'll probably be the highest we've seen in many, many years. We had 96 total warning conferences year to date. We had 25 in the month of May. Now, this does not include warning letters that are issued. This is warning conferences where an FFL actually had to go sit with the principal and maybe one of us, a consultant or an attorney, and try to wiggle their way out of why they were so bad during a recent inspection and propose a strategy for going forward. So you don't want to be there. You don't want a conference. You want to get it right the first time and make sure your inspections go well. And that's why you're here today. Inspections resulting in revocations, there were 17 in May. That brings us up to 104 for the year. As you know, last year was only just over 90. So we do expect this number to possibly even double through the end of the year. And this is pretty sad for all of us trying to get through this process. At the end of the day, it's about 2%, about 1.97% of all inspections conducted monthly are resulting in a revocation. So 2%, do you want to be the 2 out of 100 that lose your license? Probably not. So do what you can to prevent that from happening. Through the month of May, again, 104. We're projecting, like I said, 178 or maybe 200 revocations this year. Again, your job is to do everything you can to prevent that from happening. And then for the month of May, here's the offices, top 5 offices with the most inspections completed. Out of 798 in May, here's those offices. The same 2 at the top, Dallas and Kansas City. Columbus is there. Tampa's there this month. They had a lot of offering. We didn't see Tampa or the Florida division inspecting a lot of FFLs. Now here they come. They're pulling up fast. So if you're in Florida, go ahead and cross your T's and dot your I's and make sure your team knows how to pass your next inspection. Again, 25 resulting in warning conferences out of these 5 locations and 17 revocations. As a reminder, the revocations do not come fast. If you get through an inspection and you had a bad inspection, that's going to be subject to revocation. That's got to go through the Washington, D.C. Attorney General's office, all the senior folks at ATF, and then it comes back around, and it'll take a month or maybe 40 days to get that report and that letter in the mail, unfortunately, the registered mail that says you are being revoked. And then it takes another 3, 6, 9 months for us to work with you if you hire us or hire an attorney to try to get you that process and try to save your license for you. So the 17 is only those that were finalized through the legal judicial process at the ATF to actually surrender their license involuntarily as a result of a revocation. And then in May, here's the top offices that resulted in revocations. Again, these are finalized. So over in Kansas City and even Phoenix, I mean, these inspections from Phoenix occurred many months ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago. Unfortunately, one was ours that we were working with. We just had too many issues to actually defend and argue against. So we lost that hearing. There's 2 in Washington State, 2 out of New Orleans, and 1 out of Dallas. Again, these revocations are the result of inspections that occurred many months ago. All right, ATF revocations. Jishi, you want to walk through this one?
Yeah, so revocation hearings, actually in the month of May, we supported 5 FFLs through the revocation process. Actually learned of 1 win last week, early part of the week, so made my week a happy week. And we're fully anticipating the other 4 will have positive outcomes just based on the defense that we presented. Unfortunately, as JB mentioned, we did learn of 2 final revocation decisions, and we're supporting those FFLs through the revocation process and winding down business operations. Unfortunately, these folks had previous administrative action. What's that administrative action? Warning letter, warning conference, repeat violations on a reported violation. So keep that in mind. If you've had a previous inspection, ensure that you're pulling out that previous report of violations, going through it and making sure none of those violations reoccur. They are looking at that very, very closely. If you had no previous administrative action, but you had a report of violations and those errors that were found keep occurring, they can revoke you. So keep that in mind. Critical inspection violations with direct impact to public safety is pretty much what we're seeing as far as who the revocations are hitting the most. Okay, so that means anytime you're delivering a gun to somebody is prohibited, background check expires, etc. We'll go over those in a second. One call out definitely is that the ATF, upon notice of final revocation, is that they are now only giving 15 days initially to wind down business operations. It is required that you negotiate that, and you have to give them a good reason as to why you need more than 15 days to wind down business operations. So keep that in mind. Talked about it before, previous ATF administrative action. That's your warning letters, warning conferences. These are the challenges. ATF recall inspections resulting in repeat violations. Not 5, not 7, but the 9 deadly sins. The 2 I didn't call out here is that failing to respond to a trace request and refusing to permit ATF to conduct an inspection. Those are 2 no-brainers. You do those things and you force their hand, they are going to go ahead and seek revocation. But the things that are really key that we're seeing over and over again in these revocation hearings is the transferring a firearm to a prohibited person, failing to conduct that background check, falsifying records, accounting for firearms. I had an FFL in the last 2 weeks that actually was missing a firearm for 2 years. Had no idea. When the ATF gets a hold of that information, they're not happy. That definitely impacts public safety. Verify and document buyer eligibility, right? We're going to talk about a number of different scenarios. We talked about out-of-state residents and stuff in the past. you really need to start paying attention to this and ensuring you're not transferring firearms to somebody that might be prohibited. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a prohibited person as in like a felon. A prohibited person could be somebody in a state where that firearm is not legal to transfer. We've seen it over and over again. Maintaining your records needed. Had an FFL that was missing two or three denied 4473s out of their denied folder. Guess what? Revocation. And then obviously that report multiple sale of handguns, and obviously in those southern border states, the long guns, failing to report that information, very influential to public safety. So remember, willful is considered in situations involving a repeat violation, all right? Especially if you've had previous administrative action. That's willful. If they caught it, they told you about it, you didn't fix it, they consider that to be on you. So you really need to be paying attention to your previous inspection results and ensuring those things aren't happening. All right.
Yeah, JC, I want to spend another minute on this account for firearms. This has not been on our list in the past, but I think this is a result of some of the hearings that you're attending. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So FFLs, if you're not doing inventories monthly, that might be something you need to start doing. And if you haven't done an inventory in a year, this is something that can actually cause you to be revoked, next time around. And it's not just missing a firearm. If you have extra firearms in your store that are not acquired timely in your book, and if the entries are inaccurate, this is all going to count against this statute that they're now looking at. And we say it over and over as you guys all attend these webinars and you get better at what you do. The ATF has to go deeper into the inspection process to look for violations that they can hold you accountable for. So again, it's just going to get worse before it gets better, and that's why you have to get better.
So we wanted to give you some kind of transparency as it relates to revocations. This is a per location. So, and we deal with a lot of multi-unit retailers in the firearms industry. You got to keep in mind, legal support is not cheap. You're talking $40,000 to $60,000 potentially to defend your license in the event of revocation. Now, obviously, this all depends on, is it one incident or are there multiple? What's the history of the FFL, etc. But I'm telling you right now, you're going to be looking at a minimum of 40 to 60K. You might as well just count on it. All right. That's if legal support is necessary. If we get pulled into the picture, it could be 15 to 30K for us just to defend you, or it could be a 15 to 30K additional if legal, your counsel wants us involved as an expert in the matter. So, and this includes all pre and post hearing activity. This is meeting with you beforehand, developing an immediate action plan, developing a compliance action plan, depending on, what other steps that we need to take. So this is very expensive. All right. It's not a cheap process to go through. We're happy to defend you. As a matter of fact, our law firm partners, a lot of times they'll look at us and say, you guys should handle this one. The FFL can't afford to have legal representation as well, or it may not necessarily be that they need a lawyer that whatever the incident is, we can deal with ourselves. So, but one thing we want to call out is that NSSF premium member price tag. That's $750 to be a premium member with the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Now gets you into a legal defense fund of $25,000 lifetime cap. So that's a $25,000 offset for some of the costs of this. Now, obviously, there are some restrictions around this, and there are certain things that have to be done in order for you to get access to this. But the bottom line is that is a nice little cushion that you can tap into in the event of, God forbid, any type of administrative action from the ATF against your license. So you might want to keep that in mind. For that $750, you get a lot of bang for your buck. All right. And again, this is per license location. JB, you got anything to add?
Yeah. And that's an annual cost. That's not a monthly cost. That's a once a year cost, as long as, and you have to join before you have any problems. So don't try to call us and say, I just had a bad inspection. How do I join that program? You can't do it. You got to do it beforehand. It's kind of like getting insurance. They're going to go ahead and cover you if you're a good driver, not so much a bad driver.
Right.
And it also includes, JC, you forgot to mention, the most important part is a one-day visit from one of us to visit and make sure you're doing everything right, get things fixed and get ready for the next inspection. And, make sure you got all the right training in place for your staff. So it's a big bang for the money, best deal, cheapest game in town, as we tell people. So, hey, the other thing on revocation, guys, we have a lot of our JC's clients, our clients, people have gone through the hearing process. They're more than happy to share the story with you if you don't believe what we're telling you, whether it be the cost of the finale or the activities or the prep or the hearing process itself. If you need testimonials, go ahead and give us a ring and we'll go ahead and provide those contact for you, because we just don't want you to get revoked. All right. Hey, we got some celebrations and all the bad news. We love to deliver some great news. So hey, these are our folks, you guys. Some of you are on the call today. Thank you. We got these folks went through a clean ATF inspection in the last month or two. Dave in Texas, Chase in Mississippi, Sean in Alabama, Kathy over in Texas, Terry North in Nebraska. And then our visits where we go through and do not find any issues that we're really happy with. No critical violations, not getting revoked on the next inspection. We got Charlie in Missouri. I want to call out La Portia over in Mississippi. La Portia last week had zero violations, not even a missing gender, not a missing road or street or avenue on an address. These guys were perfect. So big round of applause for La Portia and her team over in Mississippi. And then we got Sheena over in Florida. We have a few more, but these are the folks that we just want to call on and say thank you for your compliance to ATF requirements. JC.
All right. Sorry about that. Oh, something screwed up with my computer. Hang on. There we go. Okay. NFA. For those of you who are NFA class 3 dealers, SOT holders, etc. I know you can't process eForms or you can't access your NFRTR, and there's a big problem. Absolutely, there is. Some way, somehow, your EIN has become disassociated with your FFL. So here's the fix. Go out to your eForms account. You need to update your EIN with your eForms account. You sign into eForms, navigate to the My Profile tab. Next slide, JB. Once you get to that My Profile tab, click on that FFL AECA EIN Access. You're going to want to select EIN Access Requests, where you can add, edit your EIN. What I'm being told is it'll take them about 2 to 3 hours to work through it and get you reassociated with your SOT. So, and get your NFRTR, your access to your NFA inventory. All right. Speaking of NFA, it is SOT renewal time. Don't think that you're going to get a notification in the mail. You will no longer receive a notification. If you were lucky enough to receive one, hey, more power to you. But I'm telling you right now, you are not. You need to go out to pay.gov. There's the actual website, pay.gov/public. Search and complete the ATF Special Occupational Tax Form 5630.7. Choose and enter payment information from expanded payment options. There's your government at work for you. They'll even accept Amazon and PayPal. So go out there, review it, submit it, and get your SOT renewed before the deadline. Remember, prior to July 1st. NFA Responsible Person Questionnaire. This came up a couple times last week. There is a revised Form 5320.23 out there. Make sure you're utilizing that for any NFA transfers, specifically Form 4s and Form 5s that you're processing. This is the Responsible Person Questionnaire for trusts and legal entities seeking to make or acquire an NFA firearm. So make sure you're utilizing that new form. It's been basically updated to kind of mirror the questions that were added to the ATF Form 4473. So keep that in mind. Compliance Corner, here we go. ATF Form 4473 tips. This is what we are seeing out there when we're doing mock inspections for FFLs around the country, and questions that we're getting kind of on the regular throughout the days and weeks in the past. So we just want to call these out. The first thing, we're still expecting revisions to that current 4473 that's out there. We haven't seen anything or heard anything yet. I know that ATF is busy with other things, so we're still keeping an eye out for that. So, still expected, so keep an eye out. Items 21B and 21C. We get this question almost every day. There's no instructions. We know that, you know that. And, unfortunately, you don't know how to direct the customer because you're afraid that you're going to somehow coach them or influence them in their decisions. So here's what we're telling people. For item 21B on the ATF form 4473, refer the customer to the warning outlined in item 21A. Just say, hey, if you don't understand 21B, just go ahead and re-review 21A. All right. For item 21C, refer them to the transferee buyer certification, and specifically that last sentence before they sign and date in items 22 and 23. That will provide them the necessary guidance to get them through those two questions until the ATF comes up with some sort of directions on the form itself. 21N1 and N2, we get a lot of calls about, hey, I got a customer who has marked no in either 21N or N1 or N2. Just go ahead and say it's okay. All right. 21N1 and N2 can be left blank, or if the customer inadvertently marks no, they can leave it alone if they'd like. But obviously, this only refers to U.S. citizens and permanent resident aliens. If they're a non-immigrant alien, a whole different story. So, and if you want to make the customer make the necessary correction, remember it's a single line, strike through, initial and date, and this just tells the ATF that the customer made the necessary correction on the day of the transfer of the firearm, not after, because as you know in the instructions, if you do it after, you got to make corrections on photocopies. All right. Updating 27D, change from delay to proceed. JB, take this one.
Yeah, guys, we're getting a lot of questions now. Just so you guys know, between JC and I, we actually get about 300 questions a month, and we like that. We actually like the fact that you're asking questions to get it right the first time before you make the transfer. But this keeps coming up over and over, especially with the 10-day delay on anyone under 21 years of age. So when you're doing your next or your state background checks and you're checking for verification on a delay, again, this is on a delay. If someone didn't automatically get a proceed on their transfer or background check, mark 27C as a delay, you're going to put the date in there. But then you go in and check that date daily, right? You're going to be checking ENIX or your state system daily for an update to see if they move from delay to proceed or delay to denial, or if they just stay in the open delay state and you transfer after the Brady expiration date. Okay, all those three options are available. But when you're looking at the form, people keep asking us, now what date do I put next to the update in 27D? And 27D, again, must be completed if you have a delay in 27C on the 4473, and you're going to use the status update. That is the date that the the FBI NICS team or your state research team changed or confirmed the status of that background check from a delay to a proceed or a delay to a denial. This is very, very important. And this is the type of detail that the ATF is going after when they come to inspect you. Remember, as you get better, so will they. You fix all the stupid mistakes they always used to look for, and you're getting better at completing these forms, they're going to look deeper and deeper for violations to hold you accountable for. So you will be listing in 27D on the date line, and make sure you do have a date line next to anything you check there, the status date, not the retrieve date. The retrieve date shows when you last went into the system to pull that record to see it for yourself and maybe to print it. We also recommend printing these reports and keeping them in your buddy file to prove that you had the right determination from your background check service, whether it be NICS or your state, to allow for that transfer to occur. And we're bringing this up, guys, because it's coming up in hearings. JC is having to fight this, and we're having to prep FFLs who have to go to a hearing to talk about this and why they didn't do it right. And the ATF is not accepting the fact that you didn't know. If you say, I didn't know, they're going to say, too bad, you didn't go online, you didn't review the ATF guidelines, and you didn't do your research. So here you go. Hopefully that explains what's the difference between status date and retrieve date, and which ones do I list in box 27D. And I'll take this next one, JC. What type is a shockwave TAC-4, a similar firearm? And type, meaning box 4 on the 4473, or type on your A&D record, your bound book. Type is the definition of the firearm as it's built, and a shockwave or Remington TAC 14, and there's some others out there, Black Aces, and some others are making a similar type of firearm. And just because it accepts a shotgun shell or shot shell, folks out there are listing them as shotguns. And this is wrong. This the TAC 14 and shockwave are listed as one of the following. It's either a firearm, or it's a pistol grip firearm, or it's an other in terms of type as determined by the ATF. You will not find this explicitly spelled out anywhere in any ATF single document. It's spread across different places available from the ATF, but we're seeing this on many different inspections by different IOIs are coming in and basically violate or writing citable violations for folks that are not listing it correctly, and especially listing as a shockwave as a shotgun. And as we know, a shotgun must have a shoulder stock attached to it to allow placement against the shoulder. And it's a long gun in that respect, but it is not if it's a shockwave, a TAC 14 or similar shot shooting shell. Even I said shotgun, but it's not a shotgun. So be careful of that. Got questions, give us a call, and make sure your team understands this. We did an inspection a couple of weeks ago, and our FFL had to go in and change 114 entries in their A&D book because they're listing them as shotguns and they're not.
Yep.
All right.
And keep in mind with those shockwaves, TAC 14s are the like 21 and up and have to be in-state residents only. You cannot transfer them to out-of-state residents.
Right.
All right. Speaking of out-of-state residents, licensees, be very aware. A number of states have enacted new laws. You need to use extreme caution when you're transferring long guns to out-of-state residents. Long guns, no handguns, no receivers, no pistol grip firearms, nothing that can fall under the classification of other. All right. Make sure that you are only transferring long guns to out-of-state residents where permitted. And you need to know what that law says in that resident state of the individual you're transferring the firearm to. All right. Make sure that you do not accept out-of-state concealed carry permits as a NICS exemption. It does not apply for out-of-state residents. So if they have an out-of-state concealed carry permit and you're in NICS exempt state, it does not apply to them. Okay. Remember, for you pawnbrokers out there, for pawn redemptions and gunsmithing, out-of-state residence is fine. You can, if an individual brings in a gun, they're, a resident of state X and you're in Florida or whatever the case may be, and they bring in a firearm for gunsmithing, it's perfectly okay to go ahead and accept that firearm into your gunsmithing A&D record and go ahead and dispose of it back to the original customer. Same holds true with pawn redemptions. Out-of-state residents and pawns does not apply. All right. So just keep that in mind. Tools you can use. We sent out our FFLC Restricted States Quick Reference Guide. Use it to your advantage. But again, if you're not sure, just pick up the phone and call us and get an answer so we can make sure that you're following whatever the rules are pertaining to that resident state as well as your own. All right. Transaction compliance. We're going to go over a few things that we've seen recently as far as our mock inspections, as well as what's going on in the reported violations we're reviewing and building out compliance action plans for FFLs. The one call out that I have here is expiration date of identification, if any. We highlighted if any here, okay? Remember, if a driver's license, there are certain states where certain individuals may not have an expiration date on their license. It may say something to the effect of indefinite. You want to go ahead and notate if it says indefinite in that expiration date box. It said indefinite, go ahead and put it there, okay? Remember, expiration dates on the driver's license or ID is the date of expiration up until 11:59 p.m. on that day. So if you have a transaction you're processing today and it says that that license expires today, that does not mean it's expired right now. It expires at 12 o'clock midnight. Okay. It's good until 11:59 p.m. on the date of expiration. So keep that in mind. Remember, you can always notate it in item 32. Just put the state of issuance for the ID or whatever the case may be. So that way, if it ever comes into question 3-5 years down the road, you know what happened. All right. Private party transfers, something we want to touch on because we had a couple FFLs make this mistake. Look, don't acquire the firearm until you receive an actual proceed on that transaction. Okay. You want to make sure that you do not acquire that firearm until you receive the proceed, because if you acquire it and the original owner leaves, guess what? They have to do a 4473 and a background check to reacquire it. One of the FFLs that accidentally acquired the firearm, the customer who was going to purchase the firearm changed their mind at the last minute. And the original owner said, oh, well, all right, I guess I'll take it back. The FFL did a 4473 and a background check, and the original owner came out denied. Now what do? Now you have a firearm that belongs to somebody else, and it's in your possession, and you can't release it to that original owner. So now you got to play a game of, okay, well, I'll offer you X amount of dollars for it, or something like that, or allow them to go through the appeal process, and you're sitting on a firearm that you can't do anything with. So military transfers, we're going to cover a few different things here because this has come up a lot. We just had an FFL that had about 35 violations for military transfers. Few things to keep in mind: military members only, not dependents, not children, not the husband, not the wife, only the military member. If it's a spouse or a child, they have to establish residency in the state that they are stationed in. As far as the military member goes, you cannot, I repeat, cannot utilize the military member's driver's license if they are effecting a transaction based on their military orders. All right. They have to be on active duty status. They have to have a valid military ID card, DOD CAC card. Again, you cannot take a photocopy of that. That is illegal, but they have to have a valid military ID card and must present those official PCS orders, and it has to say permanent. Those orders can be electronic or they can be hard copy. That's fine. Just make sure they say permanent change of station. Okay. That military ID is going to be utilized as the identification for their background check. So you're going to want to document that in the appropriate place, on the 4473, and document those military orders on the 4473s as well. If you are not sure of the situation, if the orders don't make sense to you, if you can't find the word permanent on them, go ahead, give us a call. We'll walk you through the process step by step to make sure you get it right and don't get yourselves in trouble. Now, military transfers. Next slide, JB. Here's the rules as far as military transfers are concerned. All right. If the individual lives on base, they will utilize the address of their residence on base in block 10. All right. If they live off base, they will utilize their off base residence address for block 10. They are no longer required to put both their on base and off base addresses in block 10 in those two scenarios. If they live off base, which this should be very rare, and reside in a different state, like the base is right on the state line or whatever the case may be, or they commute back and forth an hour, whatever, you will have to, in that scenario, list both addresses, and that is their permanent duty station address and their residence address. That is the one situation where they have to document both addresses. So in that situation, you want to make sure that it runs right small enough and neat enough that they can fit both of those addresses in that block 10 space. Okay. Those are the three scenarios. Don't get caught up in all the rigmarole around this. Okay. It's very, very simple. Just make sure, if you ask them a question, do you live on base or off base? Boom. You live on base, you use whatever your residence address is on base. They live off base, whatever your address is off base. But always remember, the ATF wants to know where that gun is going to be. All right. These are the three scenarios. Obviously we're recording this. So when, you want to review this with your teams or whatever, please refer back to the video. And if you need more clarification, please shoot us an email and I can provide this to you in writing as well.
Yeah, and the big one here, the hint is, if they're military, they got a CAC, a DoD ID with PCS orders. That's it. Never use a state driver's license with PCS orders. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Okay, JC, for the sake of time, we're going to run through the rest of the slides. How's that?
Sounds good.
Yeah, minimize.
Yep. ATF inspection before the close. Please, please, please call us immediately. Don't wait until the end for your inspection closing conference and say, hey, I already have my closing. Here's my report of violations. You want to make sure you're calling us before anything happens. Let us prep you, get you ready. JB, do you want to go over the do's and don'ts?
Yeah. And then the big thing is, guys, call us when they show up, not 3 days into the inspection, not when they finally highlight mistakes for you and errors. It's too late by then, and you've missed the opportunity to actually get ready and prepare for that inspection and what the ATF is going to be doing. If you've never gone through an inspection, please download our prepare for your next inspection guide right from our homepage using the bonus tab at the bottom. So don't provide any electronic or digital records to your ATF IOI. They're all walking in now with a thumb drive, and they're all saying, please download your bound book to this thumb drive for us to make our job easy. And our answer is, well, we don't want to make the job easy. 2, we don't want them to give them the digital records of your bound book because it's very easy for them to sort your records and look at other issues that may be maybe not so obvious in a printed bound book or a printout of your bound book. We could talk more offline about that, but the answer is no, it's not required. It's an option. And if you want to give them a digital copy, go for it. But we're not going to guarantee you're going to pass that inspection with flying colors. Ask the IOI to place post-its on their 4473s that they're highlighting for you and that they will be including in your reportable and citable violations list. Your report of violations is going to include all those issues they're looking at and pulling aside. Ask them to put sticky notes on it with the infraction or the error so that you can use them as training aids for your team. And more importantly, that you can call us about them and possibly correct those errors before the conclusion of your inspection. That is critical. Many people call us after the inspection and with a bad report of violations, and there's really nothing we can do. And we say, good luck, sorry, but it's too late. Once that inspection is closed and you're signed off on, there's not much we can do because you admitted to all of those corrections they put basically on your report card. Your final report from your inspection, think of it as a report card. How'd you do? What mistakes did you have? There's no A, B, C, or D grading, but we can clearly identify which issues are critical versus not critical. We can help you get a lot of those reconciled or corrected before the close of the inspection. We can tell you how to answer the inspection conference at the end, what to put in and include in those notes, because that becomes your permanent record, will be on file with the ATF forever, and any future inspections or license applications or renewals will be, they'll use these notes first to decide if you can even renew your license next time around. So use caution, call us, get us involved, we're here to help. And again, we want to submit any challenges before the inspection ends. You don't want to wait till after it ends and after they've met and gone through the whole closing conference with you. If you've been through this, you certainly know what we're talking about. If you've not been through it, again, download our guide. It explains everything and we'll get you prepared for if and when they do show up. And again, if you don't include us, it's going to be very hard to prepare a defense for your situation if you want to try to save your license in the event of a revocation. Okay. And before the close, again, don't wait to call us. If the ATF shows up or calls you about anything, you feel free to call us. We take your call. If you're not a VIP member or an NSSF member, we still take your call. We want to keep you in business. We want to get to know we want to see what they're finding during your inspection. You are allowed to fix things as they go. You don't have to sit there and just take the lumps. You can take certain errors and violations and get them corrected again before the close of the inspection. They're not going to explain that to you, but if you call us, we'll explain that to you. All right. Immediate action plan, what you can do right now to prep for the administrative action. Again, we have that available on our website. Go download it. We've gone over that many times. It's simply called How to Prepare for Your Next Inspection. And then with all of this, if you do have an inspection with any violations, and that means, I don't think that's me, there you go. any violations, you will have to reply in writing to your ATF director, why the violations occurred, what you're going to do to prevent it from happening again, et cetera, et cetera. And we can help you with some of that. Again, call us and get us involved before as the inspection occurs, and definitely before the close of the inspection. You know, JC?
Yep. All right. We've gone over these a million times. These are the most common violations we're seeing that equate to a notice of revocation. Those missing, duplicate, or expired NICS point of contact state transaction or control numbers. That's the NTN or whatever approval number you get from your state if you're a point of contact state. You need to make sure you're getting that stuff documented. Make sure you're printing off those results and keeping them in your buddy file so you can prove that you did that background check. Releasing before that Brady date, that 3-day or 10-day delay, releasing before that required date. All right, that's a big one. We see it continuously. We also see it on day 31 and day 32, 1 or 2 days after the next background check expires. So keep that in mind. You know, we've got tons of FFLs that have transitioned to a 20-day window. If you don't get a result in 20 days, we don't transfer the firearm. So take a look at those programs and see if they work for you. Next point of contact exemption, non-compliance because the FFL accepted an out-of-state concealed carry permit as a NICS or point of contact state exemption. Keep that in mind. Out-of-state CCWs do not apply. Transfers, non-compliance for out-of-state residents, handguns being transferred, pistol grip firearms being transferred, or a firearm that is banned in that state, such as assault weapons, quote unquote. All right. We know that Maryland just came down with a new law and they created one called assault long guns. So they've actually changed the definition completely. All right. Expired concealed carry permits. Remember, if for whatever reason the state did an extension on a concealed carry permit, does not apply to the next exemption. All right. That just applies when that they are allowed to continue to carry that firearm during that period where the CCW has been extended. So expired CCWs do not apply for NICS exemption. Missing or incomplete 4473s, section 21, where they've self-identified as a prohibited person, IDs expired, missing signatures, missing dates, denied transactions where the individual was actually denied and the 4473 was completed and the firearm was transferred. Adding that unnecessary supplemental documentation, make sure you're creating that buddy file. Remember, anything you attach to the 4473 can and will be used to cross-reference to see if everything is accurate and complete. Those reoccurring violations, I harp on this. Make sure you're reviewing your report of violations from previous inspections and making sure that nothing reoccurs. That will be held against you, all right? Remember those intensified ATF operations out there, we're seeing it, the straw purchases, attempts, the stings, etc. Make sure you're paying attention to everything going on as far as transactions in your store. And you know what? It ain't worth it. It's not worth it. The margin on a gun's not high enough. Don't waste your time and energy trying to make a sale and make a few bucks and get yourself into a situation where you're going to get revoked.
Yeah, and on this intensified ATF operations on straw purchases, we also have heard from several FFLs that their IOI, who was inspecting them, is telling them they're going to other areas of the country to help out now because there's not enough IOIs in certain areas. So we look at those inspection audit results earlier in the presentation, and just because your area has not been a focus of inspections, we kind of feel based on that OIG report that the teams are being shifted. They're not being asked, they're being told that they have to relocate for 1, 2, or 3 months. And they're going into areas where we have not seen an intense inspection process, so to speak. So again, whether you're Arkansas or Oklahoma or maybe West Virginia or some of the other states not on a typical list, don't let your guard down. Utah, I mean, we never see Utah on the list. Watch out, they may be coming to your neck of the woods, so get ready.
We talk about get it right the first time over and over again every month on these. Obviously, these are the things you need to be focusing on, right? Reviewing that 4473 before that gun goes out the door. documenting your ENIX and state background check results, making sure you're printing that stuff off. Again, if you've had a previous inspection, no repeat violations. Any previous administrative adverse action to your license, you can have no violations whatsoever. Conduct those inventories. JB mentioned monthly. And if you can't get it to it monthly, get it to it quarterly. That's perfect. What we recommend is, you know what, if you want to do it quarterly, do handguns on month 1, rifles month 2, shotguns month 3. And if you don't have a lot of shotguns like most FFLs don't, include your NFA in month 3 and get those done too. All right. Make sure you're getting those A&D entries in daily. That's your acquisition and your disposition. We continuously see FFLs getting dinged for timely or incorrect A&D book entries where the FFL didn't get the gun in the book in a timely manner. It's critical, critical, critical. Remember,
let me jump on this one, guys. We didn't put it in this presentation, but it's smacking us in the face. Manufacturer and importer.
Yeah.
Okay. And talking about inventories on your A&D entries now, and nobody believed us, and we've been talking about this for years. We have a guide available how to properly enter your manufacturer and or importer if imported. And I already know there's a lot of questions on the chat regarding this. You will be cited as a violation if you miss an importer on the gun, if you're incorrectly listing a Winchester and it's not a Winchester because they don't make guns anymore, typically. If you're using a brand instead of a manufacturer and or importer that's engraved into the marked properly on the firearm, you will be cited for each and every violation. We had one last week with over 100, and sure enough, we expect possibly a revocation out of that. So, and the gun dealer said, well, nobody ever told us. And the ATF saying, well, too bad. JC.
All right. So, all right. Yeah. We'll beat A&D entries to death here. So prevent those straw purchases. Go through that. Don't lie for the other guy training. You can watch our past training videos on straw purchase prevention, but make sure that customer has a genuine interest and genuine intent in that firearm. And you understand the scenario if there are 2 people at the counter looking at those guns. Get those 3310.4s in daily. They are required to be submitted by the end of day, on the day the transaction occurred. This applies to both the 3310.4 multiple sale handgun and the .12, the multiple sale long gun. Remember that .12 is only pertinent to those southern border states, California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. All right, that's the 3310.12. That only is for those states. And then make sure you're responding to those ATF traces within 24 hours. Even if you go on vacation, you need to have the ability to complete that trace request. All right. So you got to make sure that you have somebody that's trustworthy that can get to those records and do whatever needs to be done. For those of you that are electronic, this pretty much is solved through that process, but just know, even if you're on vacation, you still have to be able to respond to trace requests.
Yeah, and if you're in the state of Texas, that 3310.12 is not, or any of those southern border states, it's not if you've been notified. That law changed a long time ago. Every FFL in the border states bordering Mexico are required to fill out 3310.12 for the qualifying firearms. If you need more information on that, call us. It is not an optional thing, and it's not only if they called you to tell you to do it. It's every FFL. Hey guys, in this, we've got an FFL asked us to notify you guys that he is liquidating. He is not revoked. It's Bruce Foster is a great VIP with us. Anyway, he's down in the state of Florida. He's giving up right now. He's got a couple other businesses he's going to focus on, but he's got over 100 firearms in stock. He's trying to liquidate. Aero Precision's complete lowers, a couple models there, collector carbines, World War II collectibles. Bruce just asked us to put the word out. We're happy to do this for all of you. And he's looking to unload these. So text or call or email Bruce. There's his information. A couple FFLs we've contacted are already talking to Bruce, but you can see what he's got left. He just wants to liquidate. You'll get great deals and great prices. Call Bruce. And we wish you luck, Bruce. Hopefully we see you back again down the road. So that's Bruce Foster. Top Gun Armory, Top Gun Weapons. Let's go through this. All right, a couple days left, guys. Nick's Retailer Days. If you've been to us, great seeing you all there, and thanks for saying hi. I know a lot of you made it out to the different events we've had this spring. We've got a couple left in June, and then in July, Baton Rouge and Tulsa. In June this month, July is Lexington, Charlotte, and Charleston. I saw that Nick sent their invite out to all FFLs this morning to how to reserve your seat. They're all limited to 100 seats. They're very informative. JC or one of us will be there along with the FBI NICS team and the ATF team in your local office to get your questions answered. Great information for you and your teams. And this is the end of this. That will be the end of the session for this year. These are the last 2 months that we're doing it, and we'll have to see what happens next year. But get to the training if you can. Again, if you need the information, let us know or look back at this video. You just have to reply to nix_events@fbi.gov with this information. Okay. And here we go. We got you guys this month. We gave you not only the restricted states guide, we also this last week got the FFL Compliance Checklist that JC and I put together for all of you. This is the same information we talk about on these webinars. We talk about when we visit and do mock audit inspections. Download your free checklist. It's right out on our website if you didn't get it in an email. Again, go to this bonus button right on our homepage at fflconsultants.com. You'll find all the great information in it, the tools and resources, including how to properly list manufacturer and importer and everything else we've shared with you guys over the last couple of years. All of those documents are available right here on our website. But this list is 4 pages. It's got great stuff, great information. It's broken out into different sections: daily operations, acquisitions and dispositions, etc. So go grab it, share it with your team, use it as a self-assessment, and make corrections where you need to. And if you're interested in learning more about the NSSF programs, whether it be being a regular member, which we hopefully everyone on this call is, it's only $100 a year to support your Firearms Trade Association. But if you're more interested in the premium retail package, which we've talked about several times and on every webinar, get us to your store for a mock audit inspection, get your $25,000 of legal defense fund protection in place. It's only $750 for the year. But the most important thing is to join before you need it. It's kind of like getting the insurance before you crash the car. So call or email us so we can be assigned as your consultants. Otherwise, if you join up on the website, you can also select JC or JB as your preferred consultant. And JC, we're right at the top of the hour. We're ready for rapid fire.
Oh, here we go. All
right,
right.
So keep those questions coming. We're happy to take these questions. We're going to be on what, JC? Do you have what's your time frame?
Oh, whatever. Let's get it done.
So I'm not flying today, but here we go, guys. We're going to start with the questions that you sent in. So thank you everyone who did send these in. We love the questions beforehand, so we can do a little research when necessary. So, and just before, in case anybody signs off, our event next month is scheduled for July 10th. So mark your calendars. July 10th is our July Ask Us Anything webinar. All right, first from Arthur up in Rhode Island. He says, hey guys, I'm a resident of Rhode Island. They've changed the law for purchase of long guns and handguns to 21. Sorry about that. Is a 21-year-old allowed to transport a handgun or a long gun to a gun range to practice shooting on their own, or does a person 21 and older have to be with them?
Repeat. If the person is 21 and older, it sounded like the person.
Yeah, the purchase. Yeah, so I read through this one. So 21 and older, a lot of these different state laws that we've highlighted and put on our list is referring to the transfer, and I'm sorry, the transfer, meaning transfer from a gun dealer to a citizen, to a public. When they say transfer, that doesn't mean transferring in your car to a gun range. That's transporting in terms of ATF. So when you read that, you have to be 21 or older to transfer a firearm. That's for purchase from a licensed dealer. It may also include and or mention private party sales, depending on the state. But in this case, Arthur, if that person's transporting to their firearm to a range or other authorized location, including a dealer for gunsmithing, which they are allowed to do in certain cases, they are allowed to do that. They cannot have them loaded. They have to be locked and secured and away from and separated from the ammunition.
Right.
So hopefully that answers your question. Matthew in Delaware, I can't tell from reading Delaware's law, so I'm checking with you guys. Are AR lowers banned in Delaware with the assault weapon ban from last year? I'm guessing that the answer is no, but since I couldn't explicitly tell, I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, the challenge on these new assault weapon bans and such is that they don't speak to that, the frame or receiver. They speak to fully completed firearms. The challenge you run into is, although it's a receiver, it already contains one of the attributes that is typically identified in the ban itself, in the language. So if they manufacture the firearm from that point, if they're even allowed to, which most of the time they are not, they're most certainly going to have that secondary feature that makes it completely banned. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to these assault weapon bans, in that you transfer that firearm, they can't manufacture it because it's illegal. And even if they did manufacture it, by the time they get to the next stage of manufacturing, they're going to be having the attributes that are defined as assault weapon, which then they can't have that firearm in their possession. So the short answer, the easy answer is no, you can't transfer the receivers to individuals within the state. Most of the states that are coming out with these assault weapon bans are still permitting to have FFLs to have them in their possession in certain scenarios, but you can only do certain things with them, such as transfer them to an out-of-state FFL, sell them to an out-of-state resident, and transfer it through another FFL, etc. So the easy answer, the short answer here is, unfortunately, because you live in one of those states that has a banned assault weapon ban, I wouldn't risk it, because you will, even if the state doesn't come after you, if the ATF finds out that you've made that transfer in state, they will ding you for an illegal transfer of a firearm.
Great. From Matthew, can sole proprietors who are SOT holders, meaning log out NFA items to personal inventory at will, or does that only apply upon closing the company down?
It really depends on how your sole proprietorship is structured. If you want to get with us offline, let me take a look at that and ask you a few questions. I just need to understand how you've established your business. I understand your sole proprietorship, but there's some intricacies to that. So let's get together offline on that one. The short answer is maybe. Just depends on how things are structured as far as your business is concerned.
Right. From Sandy in Texas, question on under 21 years old. Is it mandatory 10-day wait on a NICS background check, or can you transfer earlier as long as you receive a proceed?
No, you can, if you received a proceed from NICS or your point of contact state, then you've received a proceed. There's not a mandatory 10-day wait. What it is that NICS is given up to 10 days for individuals under 21 to verify any additional information. A lot of times what you're going to get with a person under 21 is an immediate, at least 3-day wait. And within those 3 days, the NICS or the point of contact state can come back and add on additional days to that wait period, so they have time to review records to make sure, they can issue a proceed or not.
Yeah, and the critical thing there, I mentioned it earlier, make sure on any delay, make sure you check in the eNICS update screen. They are not calling you anymore to tell you it's no longer a 3-day delay on a 19-year-old and now a 10-day delay. You have to, it's up to you. It's incumbent on you to call or check with FBI NICS, and they just stop calling. And people are getting in trouble for this because, oh, I didn't hear back. They never called me to tell me it was 10 days, and I transferred the gun on day 4 or 5, and they're getting revoked. So it's up to you, and make sure you print those records and keep those records. All right. Hey, Freddie, thanks a lot for the question. It says, what is the exact process for customers with permanent alien resident status or cards?
Permanent resident alien card, really simple. They've had to have an AR number, which is an alien registration number, and that permanent resident alien card or green card. Other than that, they are the same as a U.S. citizen, no different.
Yeah, and that's line 20. So if line 20, if the customer puts a number in there, it could be USCIS number, an AR number, or the green card number. As long as they put a number in line 20, you treat them just like a regular citizen, and you will have to use that number as a secondary form of ID when you do the background check. That's all. And you're probably going to get a delay. It's probably going to be a delay. Most of them are delays. They're going to check the CBP Homeland Security records. So that's going to take some time. And then those people also answer 21N1 and 21N2. just like any other citizen, they leave those blank. So Freddie, hopefully that answers your question, but I know other people have asked that as well. All right. Scott in Oklahoma, he says, I watched a training on NSSF, and they stated I need to write the importer on my A&D and on the 4473. I was not sure how to get the information. I've been putting Glock, SIG, Winchester, or the brand name on the gun that I see on all of my forms and in my records. I purchase most guns from a distributor. I have used a couple of the other dealers on some guns as well. I have some guns that are on consignment from personal collection, so I would not know who imported them. How should I proceed?
Well, the important thing is you look at the firearm itself and you document exactly what's on the firearm. So in, certain cases, and I'll give you a couple that, typically stand out, is like a Taurus. It's Taurus Armis is your manufacturer, Taurus International, maybe your importer. Who else? Springfield, great example. Springfield, most of their black guns, their XD models, their concealed carry focused firearms. Most of those are made in Croatia by HS Product, and product spelt with a K instead of a C. So it's HS Product is the manufacturer, Springfield International is the importer. So you have to make sure you're looking at the firearm. I don't care what it says on a box. I don't care what it says on an invoice. You are required to inspect the actual firearm and document that information per what's stamped or marked on the firearm itself.
And if you can't find it, you can call us. You can send us pictures. People send us pictures all the time, say this is all I see. But then on some of the classic and all the war guns, collector guns, you're may not have the importer. Somebody brought that in a backpack or a footlocker back from overseas when they were in the war. And hey, you're not going to have an importer, and in that case, you say none visible. But you're going to have typically probably have a manufacturer. You are not required to look it up. You are only required to look at the markings on the firearm, or use common knowledge to identify these firearms in your records. So you can call us on some of the older guns. If it's got Chinese writing on it or Russian markings, you write Russian, and an importer unknown or importer not shown. Don't put NA. And when NA means not applicable, meaning it doesn't apply to this question, and that's not really true. You should put identifying words such as cannot read, not visible. If you got a serial number, that's just one off. It's serial, not visible. Just don't put none. Make it a little more use a better explanation for the ATF inspector who's going to look at your records and try to figure it out. Yep. And you could put notes in box 32 all day long. Put notes in box 32 explaining so that the ATF IOI investigator does not have to guess or do additional research when they come to do your inspection. Make it easy on them. Gerald, he says, okay, I'm going to read this because it's important. And he says, let me start with the story. I've been a type 1 holder for 36 years. Type 1 FFL means retailer. Of course, I assembled semi-auto AR-15s over the years and sold them. With the recent disclosed clarifications regarding manufacturing from ATF recently, I will request a change to a type 07 and an SOT, which will help me in this direction. So I will not assemble anything for sale until then. So that's a good move.
Yep.
So now here's the question. 20 years back, I heard that the law or regulations would allow a licensed gunsmith to manufacture 49 guns a year without having to pay an excise tax. Would that not infer that a licensed gunsmith could actually manufacture 49 guns per year?
Negative. That the exemption from excise tax refers to manufacturers. And manufacturers are permitted to manufacture up to 50 firearms a year and be exempt from paying the excise tax. Has nothing to do with gunsmiths. And if you'll do a Google search or even reach out to us, we'll be happy to share gunsmithing versus manufacturing. We did a couple articles, pretty extensive articles for the National Shooting Sports Foundation on this. There is a very, very specific line that is drawn in the sand as it relates to gunsmithing versus manufacturing and what you can do as a gunsmith and what you can do as a manufacturer. There's a lot of misinformation out there about customer buys, an AR platform kit to build the rifle. They buy everything, they hand it over to the gunsmith puts it all together. That is considered manufacturing, and you cannot do that as a gunsmith. So I know there's a lot of confusion out there. Just be very aware of what you can and can't do as a gunsmith. And one of the things you cannot do is manufacture firearms. So be very, very careful.
And there's been a lot of confusion over the years on this, Cerakoting, not Cerakoting, engraving, et cetera. The ATF is cracking down and getting detailed on all of this.
Yep. And it's all very specific to where that firearm is in the point of commerce. So you have to be very careful around that.
And or changing the configuration of the firearm. That's the other big piece.
Yep.
Okay. Tim in Arizona says, are digital copies of driver's licenses, example on cell phones, okay to accept as ID or proof of residence?
If the state allows that digital ID to be an official document for the state, like in the state of Colorado recognizes digital IDs as official identification documents, then yes.
Home-based, okay, from Tony says, I'm a home-based dealer. Just to confirm, can I do an open house as long as it's still on my property and license address on file with the ATF?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If that's the licensed address, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you could have a yard, you could have, have a Saturday yard sale with your firearms.
You can do it in your driveway, you can do it in your front yard. I would definitely check with your HOA or local municipality to make sure you're good to go, because some jurisdictions do have restrictions on the number of individuals you can have on site during transactional activities. So just make sure you're okay locally, but yeah.
All right. Marcia says, I'm hoping to get a clarification in email. So guys, any of these questions, or if we don't get to your questions, please email us at info@fflconsultants.com. We may not get to all your questions today or skip a couple, so you can always email us too. She says, trying to get clarification as to where is states that an error or correction must be initialed and dated on the original 4473 before the firearm is transferred. What I find in the notices, instructions, and definitions is the only thing that needs to be initial and dated are changes, corrections made after the firearm is transferred on a photocopy.
Yeah, it's not stated anywhere.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, it's not stated anywhere. It's the assumption and the guidance from the ATF to show that you made the correction on the date of the transfer prior to the transfer. You're providing evidence that you made the correction at the appropriate time and that you didn't do it after the fact, whereas you would have been required to make a photocopy and make the correction after the fact. So it's you providing the ATF with evidence that, or you're stating that you made the correction before that gun went out the door.
Yeah. So here's what Marcia, you may not agree, or some of you may not agree, and you guys all want to fight the ATF. I know, we know that, but here's the deal: if you have corrections made and they're not initial and dated, they're going to claim you falsified the document and try to fight that one right now through the zero tolerance program and try to prove that that change was made by the right person at the right time and on the right date. So you can say, oh, it's not in writing, I'll fight it, but I think you're going to lose. So we said we are seeing it in hearings and in reports of violations, or they can also list you as incomplete. Because on the 4473 it says there's lots of language that says all answers must be complete and accurate. So you got to choose your poison on this one, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Minnesota has a 30-day waiting period. Does that create a problem with next 4473 day period? It's not so much, they don't have a 30-day waiting period. They have a 30-day expiration period on the permit to purchase. That I know, I don't think they have a 30-day waiting period. So Bill, if you have more on that, you can email us that and we can get back to you on that. But the 4473, there's a couple states doing some weird stuff now, but the 4473 background check submittal date by the FFL is good for 30 days from the date of submittal. Starts the day after submittal.
Yep, day one. Yep.
Day one is tomorrow if I submit it today, but and that's the ATF guideline. So you have to put that as your primary determiner in deciding whether or not you have to do another 4473. There are a few states where it's very confusing, including the state of Washington right now. So Minnesota, if you're having that problem, give us a ring and we'll try to dig into it a little deeper. Sometimes we have to go to the ATF directors in the different regions that we have contact with and ask them for clarification. Sometimes it's that confusing.
Yeah, there's some states that actually, you're not allowed to transfer the firearm until you receive a proceed. And if it goes beyond the 30-day window, it goes beyond the 30-day window and you have to start all over again. So that's the bottom line. Once you hit 30 days, that's, 30-day expiration of the original submission of that background check. Once you hit day 30, it's done. You got to start over again.
Yeah. And I had a call a couple of weeks ago where the person had it's a state check. It was either Washington, Oregon, one of those states. And the person said, oh, I called my state. I think it was Washington State. And they said it was on 30. It was like day 32 or 33. And they called the state and the state said, just use the same 4473 and just list the update in box 32. And that was totally wrong. So don't put credence into whether you're Pennsylvania or Milwaukee or some of these states that have restrictions on handgun background checks or whatever. The state folks are not the ATF, and they may be giving you misinformation. So be careful.
Yep. Gotta be careful.
Gerald says, does Michigan still have a permit to purchase? I thought that was repealed a decade ago, or do they have a new one?
It's a new one, and it's coming, and it's going to be for all firearms. I believe it goes into effect. So where is my sheet? Where's my cheat sheet?
Yeah.
It goes into effect early 2024 is the expectation. So
your governor really
all firearms.
Yeah, the governor up there really screwed gun dealers and gun owners. So
yep.
And as they're doing in a lot of states, and again, we're waiting for the Supreme Court eventually to hear the cases or get the repeals of the cases and the appeals of the cases after that's heard at the state levels. But again, that might take some time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Ariel, I had to leave and rejoin due to sound and okay, no, thank you. Mark, everyone, will a liquor license on or near your premises increase a likelihood of an audit?
No. Generally speaking, even though they are still called the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau, generally speaking, a lot of the alcohol stuff is left to the states. That doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Okay, state of Washington, will we get docked for denials and canceled 4473s in with pawn redemption if they're filed in with pawn redemptions and transfers? Should we start now to separate these, or are we okay to keep them as is?
No, you need to go ahead and absolutely separate these. The reason being is ATF is going to look at those a little bit differently because they have specific information related to those denied transactions. So all denieds and dealer canceled, anything with an NTN number where a firearm was not transferred needs to be separated from those firearms that were actually transferred. All right. What I would do is start with the first year and get those cleaned up and then work on, subsequent years. So that way you have everything clean and organized properly.
JC, I think when you said first year, do you mean the most recent year? Because that's what ATF will look at?
Yeah. The most recent 12 months, because they're going to come in and inspect. So you want to be prepared for that at a minimum.
Yeah. And remember, guys, if you haven't heard this before, when the ATF comes, they have to look at your prior 12 months of transfer activity, but they can look back further if they want to or haven't been there in a while. So,
right.
All right.
Generally speaking, with denied transactions, they're going to go back 5 years.
Yeah. Another note on denials, guys. Every denial, I found this last week in a couple different dealers, must be completed through box 35. Completed through box 35. No date in box 36 because the firearm was not transferred. If you miss any of those boxes, you will be held accountable just like any other completed transfer 4473. Yep. We haven't seen that in years past. That's what they're going after because you're getting better at what you do. They have to go deeper at what they do. All right, Aman says, ATF had sent out a newsletter a while back that they would replace demo letters with a new form. Is that form out? I'm assuming this is SOT, JC.
Yeah, it's NFA, and they're talking about demo letters for machine guns. Yes, there is specific guidance on what that demo letter has to say, as well as what the ATF, what steps the ATF is going to use to verify that it is a true demo. That information is out there. Shoot us an email at info@fflconsultants.com and I will get you the guidance on that.
Kadam says, how important are variances in data from 4473 as compared to the bound book?
What kind of variance?
I'm going to say critical if it's inconsistent.
Here's the deal. ATF has stepped away from the variances as it relates to going electronic. They're referring to ATF ruling 2016-1, 2016-2, 2022-1, I believe. Those are the three guidelines, ATF rulings that you are to use as an FFL to verify any type of electronic system you're going to go to, and whether or not you're going to store stuff electronically. You no longer need to request a variance for that. You're required to notify ATF 60 days prior to going electronic. And that's just a simple email to the ATF field division leadership. We can certainly help you with that. But you are responsible as the FFL to ensure whatever system solution you decide to go with follows those rulings to the T. And you should fully expect an IOI when they come on site for an inspection to verify that that system solution is doing exactly what the rulings require.
Yeah, here, I mentioned it earlier, guys. So one of the software vendors out there has shockwaves listed as a type shotgun. Yeah. Okay, and that we had to go through 1 year of 4473s. We found 52 times that they had to go out and fix the 4473, update it, initial and date it, timestamp it as a correction, because they had the wrong type. Now, again, we want the right type in there before the ATF looks at the document. Even though it was done after the transfer, we still fixed it and we did it correctly. But guess what? They made copies of the 4473s, made all the updates, but the system had to go back. They had to go back into the electronic system and now go update the bound book for all those, find all of those, and fix them all before the ATF completed the inspection. We did so. And even though it was updated, they still caught a few and they cited them as incorrect type and incorrect entry of a firearm acquired, and it wound up on the report of violations. You can argue all day long, but it is what it is. The paper is the paper. So make sure you're making corrections. Your software is working correctly. You're not using default drop downs for any type of firearm you're acquiring in any of these software packages. You're using the complete manufacturer and importer description, because unfortunately that is what the ATF is going after right now, to either give you a warning or give you a revocation notice.
Yep. And remember, the excuse of the the solution provider screwed something up, I can argue it, but the bottom line is that you're the one responsible.
Yeah. Here's another big hint. If on any firearm you see something written in big white letters, screen stamped or screen printed on your firearm, such as a brand like Winchester or a G-Force or whatever it might be, if it's screen printed on there and it's big in white letters, that is not the manufacturer importer 99% of the time. Yeah. You have to look at the receiver or the barrel to figure out more information and get it right. While I'm talking about that, just if you want to know more, High Point's not a manufacturer. If you don't want to know more about that, go ahead and download our manufacturer importer guide. From Elizabeth, she says, does the updated state restriction sheet include the new Connecticut HB 6667 that passed on June 6th? No, Elizabeth, we have not included Connecticut. That is new. It did not hit the research process. So we will add that and get a new guide sent out. And I don't have the information. I heard about this recently and we just didn't get to it. JC, did you get to that at all?
I have not gotten to it yet, no.
Yeah. So guys, again, if you need state-specific info, if you're in one of those states, please just send us an email at info@fflconsultants.com. Jesse Dalton, good afternoon. I'm a compliance officer for a manufacturer for SOCOM Special Forces, and coming from a retail and firearms manufacturing background, but find that ammunition industry is quite different. It is. The regulation for record keeping, I'm only able to find that this position is required. Am I missing something for record keeping for ammunition?
Record keeping for ammunition.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah, repeat that question to me.
Basically, is there any record keeping requirements for disposition of ammunition?
No. And there are state laws, specific state laws relative to ammunition sales. But no, there's nothing specific as far as GCA standard ammunition is concerned.
Yeah, 50 caliber or below is okay, right, Jason?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's no acquisition except if you have state requirements for different programs there.
Yeah. Jesse,
all right.
reach out to us if you have something more specific you're looking for on that.
Cash says, can you elaborate on the 10-day delay for and how to record and where, or is that captured automatically when a background check ran? I think I ran through this pretty in detail. If you missed it, you must be checking with your ENIX online system if that 3-day delay for anyone under 21 got expanded to a 10-day delay. They're not going to call you. Check your system, run your reports, keep them as proof that you transferred on a proceed before 10 days or you transferred on a delay after 10 days for somebody under 21. All right, and that's only for 21. Anyone over 21 or over is never going to be a more than 3-day delay. It's never going to go to a 10-day for anyone 21 or over. Okay, so if a customer submits ATF Form 4, do they still have to fill out ATF Form 5320.23? I think that's the RP form, JC.
Yes.
So the answer is part of the Form 4 has that included. Am I right?
Yes. The 5320.23 is the responsible person questionnaire in situations of trusts or legal entities, because you're transferring the firearm to the trust or legal entity, and there's going to be a number of responsible persons that are listed on that Form 4, and that's the requirement beyond the initial individual filling out the Form 4, which is that request for transfer. The other responsible persons also have to do that questionnaire.
Yeah, so anyone listed on the trust.
Yep.
At the time of the Form 4 application.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
What about a shotgun with a pistol grip but a barrel length of over 18 inches? Is that a pistol grip firearm or a shotgun? Real simple. A shotgun must have a shoulder stock attached, period. A shotgun is, obviously 26 inches or longer to be legal with the shot barrel on it. So if it's 26 inches or longer, it's typically not with no shoulder stock. It's typically a pistol grip firearm or firearm or other. But if it's 60, the barrel's over 18 inches and it's got a shoulder stock, it's then a shotgun. That's the differentiator.
I'll go get a permit.
Yep.
Cover it that way. That way.
Can you mute?
Perfect.
I got them.
Okay.
Look,
Steve,
if it doesn't have a stock, it's not a shotgun. Period. If it has a pistol grip, it's a pistol grip firearm. It has to have an overall length that meets the requirements. Other than that, you're talking about potentially an AOW, which would be an NFA firearm.
yeah, that's maybe it's less than 26 inches with a shot barrel. It shoots a shot barrel shotgun. Yeah, those are quite different. All right. Gerald from Virginia. Gerald, if you got a state, I don't have the state information restricted. I know it's on our new list. Drop us an email. We'll get you that information while it's on the list. Samantha, what about the license that has the current address, such as Florida with North Carolina address? Oh, we get a lot of these.
Yeah.
So you might have a state driver's license, say from North Carolina, but it's got a Florida address on it. That is their permanent resident address. Would be shown as Florida, but it's issued by the state of North Carolina for whatever reason to drive and or to have a second home there. So a current address doesn't mean it has to have an in-state current ID issued. There's a lot of California licenses that have Arizona addresses, etc. So as long as the ID shows the current address in the state where you are licensed, you are allowed to accept it.
Yep.
And we strongly urge you write a note in box 32 and then keep a copy of that in your buddy file to prove that you didn't screw up.
Yep.
There's a lot of states doing this now. So thank you, Samantha, for asking.
We get a lot of them from Texas too.
Yep. Texas has a second residence or the address does not have to be in state to where the driver's license is issued.
It's a valid driver's license. That state allows an out-of-state resident to be put on there. Good to go.
Washington State, we have minutes from JBLM, our county background check, South Sound 911 will not accept a military ID on a paper form in Washington State. What do we do? JBLM, I'm guessing is a military.
It's joint base something. I don't know what
Yeah,
base
yeah,
it
yeah.
is, but
Tacoma, I think.
they won't allow for a military ID to be used.
Yeah, that's the yeah. In the state of Washington, you have to submit your handgun and AR weapon background checks to the county sheriff.
Right.
You know, give us a call there, whoever's Washington Pond, give us a call, an email. We'll try to get answers from your local ATF on how to proceed with that one. Yeah, that's a little odd.
Yeah, that's odd.
And it doesn't make sense. So we also have contacts at the Washington State background check system people. All right, Marcia, another 10-day wait. What 10-day wait? Marcia loves these questions. If driver's license expires on the date of the background check, can purchasers bring a valid passport to pick it up in lieu of expired driver's license? We just need to re-verify that it's the same person. Technically, if DL was valid at the time of the background check, would it still allow the dealer to verify it's the same person at the time of pickup?
You need to recertify. So if that driver's license is expired, it's expired. If the customer brings in a passport that's valid, that can be accepted, but it only contains part of the information that you're required to review and validate. So they would have to have some sort of supplemental government issued document in conjunction with the passport for them to present to you to verify all the information that they entered into, Part B of the Form 4473.
Yeah, that's a good complicated question. The answer is yes, but you need to list on 26B a supplementary address verification for the passport to be valid. I would also list that passport information in box 26B. I'm sorry, 32. And explain that the customer returned on, because you're going to have an expired ID on the form on 26A. So you want to go ahead and make sure you fully explain what's going on for that next investigator that looks at that document. That's what happened. Obviously, keep copies in your buddy file. And you should be fine. WGF Gunn says, for military members, if the middle name is not spelled out, is it acceptable to use their driver license to confirm middle name as supplementary ID for confirmation of middle name only? Yes.
Mark it in 26B that you looked at the ID for the middle name.
Yeah. Even though you don't use it as part of the PCS order background check, you can use it as supplementary ID. Yes. Somebody asked on another form, if the driver's license is expired, can I use it, and the CCW is still valid, but with a different address, can I still use that as government issued ID on 26B?
Partially. It depends on the attributes of the concealed carry permit. But if the address is different, you're going to have to get something on a government issued document that shows the address, the correct address.
Yeah. Again,
so you'd have to, just like before with the passport, it only contains partial information, and you're going to have to gain some other document that you can confirm the address.
Yeah, guys, it's always a puzzle. You just got to make sure all the puzzle pieces fit, right?
Yep.
No shortcuts.
Yep.
Steve says FFL with SOT subchapter S Corp. If a business is sold as an asset sale and I keep 100% ownership of the corporation, can I keep pre-86 sales samples, meaning machine guns, personally without an FFL license?
As long as you should be able to, as long as you keep the legal entity in good standing. It gets kind of hinky. So reach out to me. Let's talk through it. I just want to make sure that I have all of the facts before I give you an answer. The quick answer for you is probably, but there's just a few things that we need to make sure of first.
Just so you guys know, JC is the specialist here at NFA and manufacturing. And okay, Washington Point asks, when we receive the proceed or hold, et cetera, from our LEO, our county sheriff, does that paper stay with the 4473 or in the buddy file? The answer is it goes in your buddy. It goes in a separate file. The state record of approved background checks is not required to be attached to your forms, your 4473s, for purposes of an ATF inspection. Most FFLs in the state of Washington do keep those, and I think you have to retain those. Keep them in a separate file, do not attach them. The ATF may or may not ask to look at them just to make sure you're getting the process completed, and there's some date issues there. But just make sure you're putting the right control number in box 27B that you receive from your Washington State County Law Enforcement Office to proceed with that transfer. Okay. Jerry asks this in email previously, wasn't it? Okay. Forgive me if I missed the email. Here's the question again. If a pistol received for transfer to a buyer, FFL transfer, and the buyer was then denied and did not want to file an appeal, what is the FFL supposed to do with the firearm and when? So in other words, how long do I keep it in storage and what are my disposition options?
You know, what we normally recommend in this situation is offer to buy it from the individual. I don't know why they wouldn't want to go through the appeal process other than the fact that they knew they were a prohibited person in the first place. So the bottom line is offer to buy it from them. You can certainly be nice and ship it back to the originating FFL or whatever the situation is. If it came from a private party, then, you know, ask that private party what FFL you want me to ship it back to. But usually the easiest out is to offer to buy it from them.
Yeah, most folks just disappear and they leave a gun on a shelf. They don't come back. They get denied. They never show up. Maybe it's a straw purchase attempt that you deny. Yeah, there's some legal issues regarding just acquiring those guns and selling them. That you're not allowed. Yeah, that's theft of property. Believe it or not.
Yep.
Just because it's in your inventory doesn't mean it's yours. So call us on any specific issues, and then every state is a little bit different as well.
Yeah, there have been several situations just in 2023 itself where we've advised FFLs contact your local law enforcement and treat it as property and say, this is abandoned property from this individual. We don't want to have anything to do with it. Here you go. You guys deal with it.
Yeah, and depending on the customer, we have several other processes you can use: registered letters, call, offer to buy it, etc. All right. I hate to see the guns getting destroyed through the ATF. Mike says, oh, I'm sorry, here's Powder House. I'm not sure what state you're in, but he says, what happens if you convey a gun that was not a proceed, in other words, a no resolution to a background check? So I'm assuming you might be in one of these states where there's a mandatory proceed, like Colorado, you must have a mandatory proceed to transfer a firearm. There's other states like that. Don't get a proceed, you cannot transfer on a delay. If you're one of those states, give us a call. But if you're not one of those states, if your delay date, your Brady expiration date expires, meaning you've met that date and you're allowed to transfer on the following day, you know, at all means do so. You're also, I don't think we mentioned this today, but as a gun dealer, you are allowed to implement stricter guidelines than what the ATF requires or your state requires.
Yep.
So if you don't like, we have some dealers in Texas, for example, that will not trade on a delay. They will not transfer if you're delayed. They will only wait till you get a proceed, otherwise all deals are off. It's in their contract. They have signs posted. You may or may not get your money back. You may pay a processing fee, a storage fee, etc. It also deters tire kickers, people who just want to see if they can get a gun background check proceeded. So call us, Powder House, call us or email us with more specifics on your question. All right, Mike says, when shipping out a firearm to another FFL, when should you dispose it? Once it is in the box and unidentifiable, or once it leaves the building?
Once it leaves the building.
Yeah.
If it's still on your premise on a pallet sitting at the back door waiting for UPS or whoever, it's still yours. Don't dispose of it until it actually is taken into custody by that carrier.
Right. And that's one of the questions on our new compliance checklist too. It reminds you to do that and wait until it leaves the licensed premises. All right, code 4, are FFLs required to respond to a trace request within 24 hours, even if we're closed and out of the state when the trace comes in, maybe on vacation, et cetera?
Yep. If you're on vacation, you still have a responsibility to respond to trace requests.
And what we do, we've helped a few of you recently. You're a one-person army or you're a home-based dealer. There is information we have available. You can contact the tracing center and NICS and let them know that you'll be out of town. Let them put it in a system. Send an email, get confirmation email that they know you're out of town. They're still going to call. Okay, but at least they know you're not going to maybe not be there on site to retrieve your records, even though there was a recent webinar broadcast where they said you must be on site, blah, blah, blah. That's
Yeah.
not always accurate and correct. It's not like you have to have a neighbor or a niece or nephew standing by the phone waiting for that trace while you're on a cruise.
Yep.
So more information on that.
Matt up at the tracing center will put it in the system that, hey, you're on vacation, you'll be back. These are the dates, etc. But yes.
Yeah. So a lot of misinformation.
What our guidance is look, if you're going on vacation, we have guys that we support in Virginia that are government focused folks, and they have those concerns because they go out of state, out of country, etc. And we've worked it out with the team at the tracing center to give you an ability to let them know stuff. So obviously we always like to afford the ATF the ability to get the information necessary from a public safety standpoint, but certain scenarios it can't be helped. So
yeah, Washington Pawn asked a similar question. What happens if it closed? Well, if you close, you close. Your business hours should be up to date and accurate with the tracing center.
Yeah.
Make sure
you're closed.
Yeah, make sure they are. They're still going to call. There's contractors that are still going to call, but you have a defense. If you get into work on Monday and you were closed on Saturday and Sunday, and the tracing center left you a message, make sure your phone is working, your system is working. And if they don't get you on phone, they're supposed to email you with the trace information. So check your email. Just because you're not available doesn't mean you win. You have to let them know by way of your documentation on file that you're not open during certain hours and what your business hours are. And then secondly, if you go away on vacation, again, send them an email, make sure it's all good and they know you're going to be away for a while.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Terry says premium membership is worth every penny. Thank you, Terry. Terry, you were our winner last month for a perfect inspection, and I know you had a follow-up inspection for your Type 7. Congratulations on that as well. Roland says, is it allowed for a 4473 customer to fill out the form digitally, type that information into all the questions, print it, sign it, and have the FFL fill out the rest in pen? All documents are kept on paper and not digitally. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So when we talk about digital records, JC made a big presentation and discussion on variances and different things. Digital, that's really pertaining to digital storage of records.
Yeah.
Okay. So any of you with the electronic E4473, if you're printing out that 4473 at the end of your process before you transfer the firearm, it doesn't matter if it's typed, written in pen, corrected in pen, maybe first typed out on a computer, corrections in pen. Use black or blue pen. Don't use red pen and purple pens. In fact, we always say use one pen. You should have one box of the same pen for everyone to use at the counter, whether it be employees and or customers. There's a secret for that. But anyway, to have mixed printing and pen on a 4473 that's in your file cabinets and going to be reviewed by ATF, that's fine. That's fine. Next call, Terry says next call on July 10th. We said yes. During the NSF, will you be hosting live Milwaukee? Oh, there's an NSSF. Is there an NSSF?
It's the Business Expo.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, I have 2 revocation hearings over that entire span of the expo. So I'm going to try to pop in. I'm just not sure if I'm going to be able to make it there or not. So,
yeah. And I'm not going to the expo as we have dealers I'm visiting that week. So you guys take precedence. So they're sitting around and talking to people about stuff. All right. Eric says there'll be other, if you go into the NSSF Retail Expo, there'll be some of the other consultants up there if you want to get questions answered. Eric says, is the ATF privy to business records such as customer receipts, invoices, etc.?
They can make the request, but it's not required for you to give them to them.
Yeah. And guys, that's a good point. I'm making a note right here. I'm going to send you out with, we have a form that says what to attach.
Yep.
More importantly, what not to attach, explaining the whole business record thing. So because you guys are on the call today, we'll formulate that email into a PDF document. You'll have that also sent to you and available from our homepage in the bonus section. So good question.
And realize something, your commercial records, that could be a double-edged sword. So it could get you out of trouble, but it could also get you into trouble. So you have to really evaluate the scenario to determine which direction something's going.
Yeah. And why not keep them all separately and only pull them out when you need them is our philosophy. right? RJ says, how do we get out of giving a copy of our bound book to the ATF? What do we say? Also, what if they ask us for copies of someone's IDs?
Well, the ID that's a matter of a commercial business record. So you don't have the ID. That's that simple. Now your bound book, you're required to provide that to the ATF upon inspection. So, you're not required to give it to them electronically, but you are required to, allow them to inspect your bound book.
Yeah, RJ, is one of our VIPs, RJ, and a PRM, meaning with NSSF. RJ, yeah, your business record, they can ask for everything under the sun. It's just a matter of what are you legally required to comply with. And it'd be great if you just get us on the phone when you get into one of those scenarios. We'll get on the phone with the IOI. If we have to, we'll go up to Kyle's office, the DIO. They know once we start making phone calls that they're not going to get what they're asking for, even though it sounds like you're required to do that. 90% of the time you're not, but they will always ask because they want as much as they can to catch you doing things incorrectly. Yep.
The regulatory records that are to be maintained by an FFL is what they're allowed to inspect. Everything else they have to request.
Yeah, and everything else, if they want it, they have to request it through a subpoena or some other process that is not readily available to them.
Right.
Yeah. And guys, anybody has questions about that, whether it be a criminal investigator from the ATF coming in to ask for specific records or anything like that, just give us a call. We deal with this, day in and day out.
Yes.
Sarah says, if they have a permanent resident card, do we have to call it in to fix, or can we submit it through the web portal asking from Oregon? I'm pretty sure there's a secondary ID submittal option in your fix system. I don't have access to fix. Fix is like NICS, but for Oregon. But if you don't have a secondary ID drop-down menu for what type of ID it is and what the number it is, I would suggest just calling fix and ask them that question.
A permanent resident alien is no different than a U.S. citizen. As long as they have a valid green card, you're good to go.
And they do not need a valid green card in hand. They just need the number to provide on line 20 of the 4473. That is their section to fill out. You do not need to see it or validate it. It is the information they are honestly submitting for their transfer application. All right. Robert says, for Springfield importer manufacturer, we use Hellcat, for instance. On the gun, it says HS product /SI, which is Springfield abbreviation for Springfield International. I would assume the importer SI is okay, or should I spell out Springfield?
No, SI is fine. It's a recognized designation for Springfield International.
I remember, guys, take the markings from the firearm. Don't, whatever's on there, take the extra 3 seconds or 13 seconds that it takes to write out Aspen International, some of these very long names. AP International.
You can put APINTL. It's a registered trademark of AP International. SI is a registered trade name for Springfield International. You can also do Springfield INTL if you want.
Yeah, let me give you a heads up. Here's a revocation or report of violation issue from last week. CA is not an importer and it's not a recognized manufacturer. CA, short for Century Arms, is not an abbreviation. CAI, Century Arms International, now that's a correct legal trade name of an importer if in fact the firearm is stamped that way. Okay, so be really careful. This person got cited 61 times for CA. Well, the other problem they had is they said CIA. CIA is not, CIA is just goofy. I mean, and 61 times they had marking violations for manufacturer and importer. And that was just one of the issues. So thank you guys so much. Could you repeat the link or address for the gunsmith versus manufacturer?
Just email us and I'll send you the two. If you're interested in that article, it's a 2-part series we did. Just email info@fflconsultants.com and I'll email it to you.
It's actually out on our bonus site, JC.
Oh, is it? There you go. Go out to fflconsultants.com as well.
Yeah, go out to the bonus, click that big bonus button at the top bottom. You'll see about 30 or 40 different things in there for you to use. All right. DKI says your state guidelines said MN has a 30-day wait starting August 2023. I'm in Minnesota and do not have that info yet. Yeah, let me go ahead and DK, send me a specific email on the Minnesota stuff. That's coming, starts in August. Let me figure out what, I think that 30-day wait is one firearm per 30 days.
Yes.
Okay. That is the one firearm every 30 days. That's what that's all about. Same thing as California. So guys, there's some weird stuff going on around the country. Just make sure you're up to date on what your state is saying to do, not to do. Now, if you're transferring to somebody in Minnesota, who cares? Let the FFL in Minnesota deal with the 30-day wait or 30-day period on purchases from any single person.
Yeah, they're mirroring California with the requirement that you can only buy one gun in a 30-day period.
Yeah. That's not a 30-day delay type of thing. It's just one gun every 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. RJ says we set up 2 laptops for the ATF when they come in, and RJ has the Access software.
Yep.
If you guys, any of you have access, they use online E4473 storage as well as online A&D. It says I give 2 laptops to the ATF when we get audited. ATF when I get audited, do I have to give them more? And the answer is yes. The answer is this. Here's the stipulation for every thanks, RJ, he's got some commentary on Access. Basically, for every 500 4473s that you have stored electronically, the ATF may and can request an additional laptop to review your 4473s if and when they're stored electronically or in the cloud. And nobody's telling you this. If you're getting all these sales pitches about storing your 4473s in the cloud, call us directly. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it's probably not a great idea right now for the way ATF inspects your documents, corrections being made, photocopies, et cetera, timestamping of errors and updates. There's a lot of discussion we can have on that. But if you have more than 500 4473 stored electronically in the cloud for them to inspect, you have to give them a laptop for every 500 4473s they will be looking at. I know, RJ, you have maybe thousands of these, right? So you are going to have, you might have to give 20 laptops for them. They can request it, and if you deny them, well, then you're going to fail your 4473 inspection or your ATF inspection. Lauren says, if you are using paper bound book, can you use multiple lines for manufacturer information? Well, Lauren, you want to try to have one line per firearm, right? As paper bound book allows for. And you just got to squeeze it in. You squeeze in your manufacturer / importer, just like they list at the top of the column in your bound book. And if there's industry acceptable abbreviations like H and K or S and W, you are allowed to use those. But if it's a firearm that doesn't have industry acceptable or recognizable abbreviations, you are required to print out the information and not make up your own abbreviations. Okay. Jesse says the regulation under 478.125 for record keeping, I am only able to find that the disposition is required. Am I missing something, or do they expect, require, or track the acquisition of controlled projectiles and ammunition? Jesse, just give JC a call directly or email directly on ammunition questions. We'll have to do a little research on that for you. RJ says, wouldn't that make it into a registry by having them handing them the bound book? And the answer is, quite frankly, it can be, but the ATF will hand you a thumb drive or a jump drive and say, can you download your A&D records for us? And they're going to do different things. They're going to sort your data. They're going to look at your data. They might sort by serial number. They might sort by customer name. They can do anything they want with that. So the answer is no. You are not required to provide to them your registry in electronic digital format when coming to do an inspection. Okay.
There's specific guidance for the ATF relative to what they can take electronically and how they have to store it, etc. So there's very specific standards that they have to meet. I totally get where you're coming from a Second Amendment standpoint and all that kind of stuff, but you're barking up the wrong tree with that one.
Yeah. So the other issue when it comes to inspections and using the IOIs will use and can use phones to take pictures of your forms and records that they will be using as evidence to cite you in a report of violations.
Yep.
So we get that call every week. Yes, they can use the phone. They can take pictures. They can't sit there and take pictures of every page. They have to take pictures of specific issues related to a violation of law. Yeah. And I think I just answered that for code 4. Can clarify if IOI can take pictures while on site. The answer is yes, if it's
Yes.
a violation of law.
Yes.
For RJ says, for Springfield Armory, can we just write Springfield? The answer is no, because Springfield is not an industry acceptable abbreviation for Springfield Armory, although Springfield SA would be, or SI would be. If you're just writing Springfield like everybody does and you're taking a shortcut, there's no guarantee the next investigator will not cite you for abbreviating, unlawfully. And,
Yeah. Unfortunately, to JB's point, you're going to have one IOI that says Springfield's fine. You're going to have another IOI that's extremely nitpicky, and they're going to say, no, it has to be what was on the gun, Springfield International or SI, whatever the case may be. So why paint yourself into a corner with that? Just write what's on the gun.
Right, what's on the gun. Last week, thankfully I was there, not the ATF. We had somebody who brought in over a dozen new Mossberg rifles and shotguns that were not made by Mossberg, believe it or not. For the first time, I've never seen it. So even Mossberg is licensing out their production to another manufacturer overseas. So make no assumptions, always look at the gun. All right, thanks, Robert. Powderhouse, I lost my internet for about 30 minutes. Yeah, you have to come back and watch the video or give us an email or call. JRQ says, thought there was a max of 5 computers to provide. Nope.
Yeah, there's a stipulation within the ruling. It's up to a certain point. I was going to hit on that as soon as another question popped up, but yes, there is a stipulation within the ruling. It's up to X amount of computers based on, how many IOIs, based on how many records, etc. There's a formula around that. So yes.
All right, JC, smarter than me.
No, I just deal with this too much.
Yeah, Anna says, what amount of violation would constitute a revocation? So Anna, you got to run out to our website, download the how to prepare for your next inspection guide. It's 6 pages. It spells out all the major violations versus some of the more minor ones, but definitely the zero tolerance issues. And JC, how about if you get one critical violation?
One revocable violation. We've had plenty that we have supported through the revocation process that had only one violation that landed them a notice of revocation. The vast majority of time when those situations occurred, it's always been something relative to the NICS violation. In other words, releasing the firearm before the 3-day wait, or releasing the firearm after the expiration date of the NICS transaction number. So those have been typical. Others have been something where you released a firearm without doing a background check, such as accepting an out-of-state concealed carry permit. But one violation can get you a revocation.
Yeah. Washington Pawn asks, is it best to keep all pawn redemptions to 144.73 and purchase on a second one? This is one of those state respective issues. There might be different rules in place for pawn redemptions versus the handgun and or long gun rule. In Washington state, you have different rules. So if somebody's redeeming a pawn and purchasing a pistol or assault weapon, which has to go someplace else for authorization to transfer a background check, I would suggest putting them on separate 4473s. People can leave with the pawn redemption today, but because they're buying a new handgun or assault weapon, they're going to have to go through a different process. So yes, if you have one of those states, I would suggest using different 4473s.
Yeah, there are specific rules around when you can release and exemptions to waiting periods and stuff. So you don't want you don't want their pawn redemption caught up in a waiting period, because now you have to wait for that item, right? So
yeah, let them leave with one, come back for the other. Gerald says, when I acquire a firearm from a private individual, I keep a copy of the driver's license in the same file as the acquisition FFL copies. My acquisition entry reflects the name, address from the driver's license. Is it appropriate to let the ATF examiner see DL copies, or should they be in a separate file that I do not voluntarily provide to ATF?
There's nothing required for you. It's good practice, but there's no requirement for you to keep any of that documentation, nor to hand it over to the ATF. It's a commercial business record.
Yeah, so Gerald, all pawnbrokers do this. You know, there's a lot of state rules on pawnbrokers that they have to have ID of the person, you know, presenting a pawn gun or used gun for sale, but it doesn't roll over to all FFL dealers, although we make many mistakes and attach all that stuff. We attach too much as gun dealers to our paperwork. It's getting people in trouble. As JC said, there's no requirement. Keep your separate files. Keep your business records separate from records required for inspection, or that ATF has privilege to inspect during a random audit. If you have more questions, give us a call. Again, we'll send that document. We'll put those documents out on our drive, public drive for you guys, and our bonus drive, and we'll send you information on how to do some more of this. Sounds like you're new, so thank you for joining us, and keep coming back. So Gerald, you also say it's not a good idea to let ATF see ID copies. Absolutely not. Never, never, never. Let them get a subpoena. All they're going to do is compare what's on the driver's license to everything put on the 4473, and they're going to try to find mistakes. They look for discrepancies. All right. RJ says, yeah. Thanks, Gerald. RJ says, give them ammo if one letter is on. So RJ, you got absolutely right. If one letter is off on an address, you fact fingered when typing in the name on a NICS check. If you spelled the name wrong or didn't include a zip code or a transfer, or maybe you got the date of birth wrong when you typed it in to the background check, they're going to be looking for all of that when looking at your business records, meaning driver's licenses versus your 4473s. Mike says our last inspection was 8 years ago. How likely is it that our next inspection, the IOI will want to see more than 12 months of the 4473s?
Probably unlikely unless there's something criminal. They'll definitely go back at least 5 years as far as your denied transactions, but very seldom do we see them going back further than 12 months unless they've identified some diversion or trafficking scenario or potential diversion or trafficking, something criminal.
Yeah, what we're seeing on inspections, if you get, they have to go through 12 months. Further, they have to type in the dates that they looked at, 12 months worth of dates of 4473s. So they're going to do that. But if they go through the most recent 3 months, and then they go through another, they get to 6 months and everything's pretty clean, chances are they're going to fly through the last remaining 6 months and move on to the next dealer that otherwise has problems and violations that they can dig into. Right. So as we say, if you get through your first 6 months with a clean inspection, minimal violations, that's what we're seeing. We can't guarantee anything, of course, but you got a good clean 12 months, they're going to move on to the next guy and say thank you, see you in a few years. Yeah. RJ's asking us if anyone else has noticed that Access has been getting worse and worse, including support. Anybody using Access? We still got 80 of you on here. If you guys are anybody out there having problems with Access, give us a note. We'll connect you with RJ. RJ is up in beautiful state of Illinois, selling guns, but we'd love to connect you guys, and maybe you guys can get together with Access and get some improvements made. All right, anybody else? You know, we're chock full of A to Z, anything firearms, FFL related. Give us a call. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us. All 80 of you get a big round of applause.
Hey, Anna, real quick response to your question. It's not ATF that's trying to revoke you. It's the Biden administration. This is a White House policy driven down through the Attorney General to the Department of Justice through to the ATF. Nothing to do with the ATF. The ATF policy, as far as revocations and all of that, has been in place for years and years, decades. It's the White House's executive order to the Department of Justice through the AG that there's a zero tolerance for revocable offenses that negatively impact or influence public safety. That's transferring a firearm to a prohibited person.
We could spend another hour talking about the politics behind this move, but basically the Biden administration is saying that by closing down gun dealers, we're going to eliminate all the violence in the streets, the shootings, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a whole nother day. So until then, the ATF is just doing their job. They don't want to get fired. They got to do what they got to do. You know, we meet the same people today that we talked to 5 years ago, and they're not happy about what they have to do, but they have a job to do, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, guys, we love you. Look forward to our broadcast in July. Please register, tell your friends. When you see our emails, share them with other dealers you know. If you see our social media, please share that as well. The more words we can get out there, the better. Like and review our YouTubes. If you go out to YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe at FFL Consultants. Just type that into a YouTube search. And we'll have more good stuff coming to you guys in the very near future. We have some surprises for all of you loyal fans. That's it, JC. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the road. And thanks for coming. Take care.